ABNB is the narrowboat broker that specialises in selling quality new and used boats nationwide. Visit the ABNB website to buy or sell your canal boat. This is narrowboat Tranquility. On the face of it, it looks like any other narrowboat. It's 60 feet long, 6 feet 10 inches wide, there's solar panels on the roof, a tiller at the back. But there is something about this boat that makes it unique on the canals. The narrowboat is now owned by father and son Arthur and Sean Borg, who bought it from its original owner a few years ago. The owner had designed the boat himself to a very intriguing specification. And you get hints of how that might present itself when you discover that the fenders strung along the boat are actually the chocks from an RAF Harrier jump jet. Yes, the designer was an aircraft engineer. And the volumes of intricately detailed plans and specifications he drew up also hint that this boat is not the norm. We'll get to the best bit in a minute, but first a tour, starting in the saloon where there are no chairs, at least not on the floor, but a hammock strung from the ceiling, its anchor points being bolts tied through from the steel of the roof. The carabiners are unclippable from when you want the hammock down, with little wooden covers to hide the holes. Alongside that is a hanging chair using the same kind of mounts. On the ceiling, the LED lights can be colour controlled by an app on a tablet or a physical dial on the kitchen table. Speaking of the kitchen, the whole boat is gas-free, using induction cooking along with a combined mini-oven, grill and microwave. Naturally, all the rooms are wired for Ethernet, as well as there being Wi-Fi throughout. This enables the side hatches, doors and windows to be monitored by an alarm, which alerts your watch if they're opened. Dotted around the boat are temperature and humidity sensors feeding into, yes, that is a dual Raspberry Pi computer system in the cupboard. Along with that data are feeds from the solar panel, water tank and many other things which can be interrogated by a program on Sean's laptop which tracks the data over time. He wrote and set all this up himself.
And then I also have
multiple power inverters are used on this boat, the one in the bedroom sorting out the 240-volt mains throughout the living areas. The solar feeds into the biggest battery bank I've ever seen, which is located under the bed. Normally it's left untouched, but can be accessed by removing the mattress and a few screws. To give you some sense of scale, this is my hand and this is one of the battery packs. They each weigh 70 kilograms and there are 12 of them. They're 2-volt gel traction cells, together forming a 24-volt, 1000 amp hour battery bank. And that's just for domestic use.
The whole boat is 240 volts pretty much everywhere. I've got a lot of sockets, which is really nice. The nice thing about that is, having not been on a narrowboat before, I basically just treated it like a house. So I've added all the smart stuff in just for the fun of it, and tinkered with all the various things. But yeah, it's nice to be able to just use it like a house. The amount of spare power I've got has been absolutely fine. It's been off for a month. Now that we've added the solar panels, it can last a very long amount of time. So it's not really been a problem. When I have a few patchy days, it's no problem because it'll last a week of my usage, and then it'll charge up when it gets back to sunny days, which has been nice. At some point I probably will add more solar panels just to make sure that I'm definitely never going to get too low, but the fact that I can use it just like I'm in a house instead of like I'm in a boat has been great.
This is all well and good, I hear you cry, but what about the unique aspect I mentioned? It's to be found here at the stern. More specifically, underneath the back deck and down in the depths of the water itself. The deck looks conventional enough, sure, but open the hatch and what the dickens is going on there? Well, the boat doesn't have an engine as such, but a generator feeding a pod drive electric motor, like on a cruise ship.
Inside the pod, underneath the water, is a 3-phase motor, and it'll run on a stator, and the stator runs a propeller. The way it drives is using a frequency drive, which is an inverter essentially. that will alter the frequency to the motor, which alters the speed and the power that goes to the motor. There's a cable runs right down a shaft, and the motor sits right behind the propeller. And as the propeller drives, it throws water across the motor housing. Bear in mind that motor housing is 8 millimeters thick, so it's a very hefty chunk of steel, and it's completely sealed with several seals on a shaft, and it's oil filled with transformer oil in order to keep it lubricated and also provide a positive pressure to make sure no water ingress. I mean, these pod motors are actually built for submersibles, so the guy that designed it designs submersible boats.
The guy that designed it works down in Portsmouth, so I popped down there on a beautiful day for boating, and he told me the benefits of this propulsion system.
Doing it with a pod, an Azipod that turns, gives you far better manoeuvrability. You can move, and also it has a bow thruster, so you can move the boat sideways out. You can turn it in its own length. It stops better, it manoeuvres better. The whole thing is so much better for manoeuvrability and handling. But it's the same concept that they use with these big ocean liners now, so they can move in around their berths sensibly, because they use Azipods, etc. So in a way, there was nothing really spectacularly new about it. It was just taking it to the canal boat.
It's very easy to adjust the power of the thing, so you can adjust how much power you're putting in when you want to turn it. And because you're turning the propeller, you can kind of just push it around. It pretty much turns on a dime. You suddenly want to turn it, you just sort of whip it 90 degrees and just put full throttle on it. It just starts to turn immediately.
Just pirouette.
Which is great, yeah, it pretty much just pirouettes. And also because it can go in reverse, you can kind of come up to a part that you want to park, and then you kind of just tilt it in and then reverse it, and then you turning and slowing down at the same time. It kind of just falls straight in, which is really good. That's really nice.
Yeah, you need no forward momentum to steer the boat,
Yeah.
just like you would an outboard engine. So literally, rather than waiting for forward momentum to actually steer, we can steer it from a standstill. So I can rotate the boat from a standstill.
Take up the deck boards in this narrowboat, and where you'd normally have an engine is here given over to a generator, which provides the 3-phase electricity to power the pod. It's not fed through the boat's battery bank. Instead, the generator feeds the pod via these variable frequency inverters. A 3-phase battery charger also puts the Jenny output into the domestic battery bank, as does this charger when fed from a shoreline. Access to the generator for maintenance is excellent. The only battery related to the propulsion is the conventional 12-volt starter battery for the generator. Cooling comes from canal water, which is filtered and pushed through the generator by this industrial strength pump. As on a normal narrowboat, the heat is used to warm up a tank of water for domestic use as well. Another unusual aspect of this is the weed hatch. You need access to the propeller to remove any rubbish caught around it, but here the prop is directly underneath its mounting, so the weed hatch has to be slightly different. Loosening these wing nuts enables Arthur or Sean to pull the semicircular hatch upwards, and the unusual design of the housing brings an additional benefit. One of the many unique aspects of this boat is that because the drive is accessed through what they call here this top hat, a sort of cylinder that comes up from the bottom of the boat above the waterline, there is no stern gland. So that fear that the average narrowboater might have of, is my stern gland leaking, is my boat going to sink, you just don't have it here because the waterline is contained within the metal. And in fact, the owners of this boat have had the whole pod out for about a month with this open, and of course absolutely no problem. The boat just doesn't sink.
Any of the other electric boats, they've still got the stern gland, which is quite a problem in my opinion. I mean, I never had one, so I never had that worry, but I definitely would be worried about it. It'd be something I'd be checking, and the fact that I can know it's always dry under there, if I get any problem with my sensors telling me that it's water under there, I will go check it, because that's a big problem, because all of a sudden, like, why is there water under there? There shouldn't be. It's not like, oh, there's always water under there, so I can never tell. It's like, no, some water, why is the water? Fix it. So it's much easier to sort out and deal with.
Removing the entire motor for any maintenance is also a lot simpler than with a diesel engine. The hatch sides are unbolted to give extra width, then the motor unit can be just lifted up.
It's just a few of the bolts around, oh no, it's 2 bolts on the top hatch, on the top hat, and then there's 2 circle loops that you can just sort of put some rope through, and then just pull it straight up, kind of keep it steady, and then once it's up and out, and then you can kind of throw it in the back of a car, take it to wherever you want, and then come back later and put it back in. You can do it in the water, or you can even do it out of the water. We took a little bit, it wasn't entirely designed to come out while it's out of the water, but it is possible to lower it down and then take it into 2 parts by detaching the motor from the top hat and then just dropping the motor down the bottom and just carrying the motor out. So you can, it's pretty versatile really in the way you want to repair it, which is nice.
Behind this drop-down cupboard door lie some of the electrics, though Sean's keen to point out he hasn't rewired these to his satisfaction yet. It all looks terribly complicated to me.
I love the amount of electrics in it. Being a software engineer, and I also like to dabble a little bit in electronics anyway, it didn't scare me at all with the fact that it was all electric. I originally was planning to do that anyway, so I was like, well great, now it's already done for me instead of having to put a big battery bank in. I had been tempted to maybe put a bigger battery bank in the lithium side, but maybe not with the cost. And then the fact that it was a slightly different drive system, didn't really bother me. I love the fact that it didn't have a gland. I didn't scare me that it was going to be something different. I mean, it's my first boat anyway, everything's going to be different. So learning this boat compared to learning a different boat didn't really make much difference to me. And you was very happy with how it looked, and Dad being the more mechanical one, knew a lot more about whether it was going to be okay or sound.
Setting off is straightforward. Check the cooling water filters are clear of muck from the canal. Start the generator and engage drive. Remember that unlike a traditional narrowboat, on this one, whichever way the tiller is pointing, so too is the propeller, which gives a much more directional shove to the boat's back end. It's pretty quiet too. Even though the generator is running constantly, it's in a well-sealed box, so you mostly hear the splosh of the water. The exceptional turning ability of the boat makes it a doddle to pop the back end in towards the bank when, for example, you need to drop someone off to operate a lock, or in this case, a lift bridge. That slight ringing is an oddity that only occurs at a specific amount of throttle. Give it a touch more and the noise vanishes. Bridge passed, we set off again, and I was allowed to take the tiller.
Alrighty, let's have a go. Swap you. Right, is that still in forward? No, that's in neutral at the moment.
Yeah, that's in neutral.
So
The throttle being a large button does take a little getting used to, as does the response of the motor. And there's an unexpected difference in the steering as well.
there is very definitely a different knack to steering this, because when the motor is engaged, the tiller is really heavy and you can feel it vibrating, and it's hard to actually turn. So the trick is to put it into neutral, then it turns really easily, and once you go in the right way, you engage the throttle again. It's bizarre, but you get used to it.
As far as I know, this is the only narrowboat with a pod drive. But if you'd like one, it can be arranged.
We did have ideas of marketing it and selling it, but just after the boat was up and running, we had the massive financial crash. And the next thing that happened was that a whole load of canal boat builders went out of business. Orders for canal boats just plummeted. So it was a good idea, but at the wrong time, totally the wrong time. But now that things are getting better financially, this is the time, to start taking the concept on again.